It was supposed to be a simple family celebration. My sister Rena's daughter Sarah was turning 12, and the entire family had gathered at my parents' house. So big, beautiful garden covered with balloons, streamers, and a banner that read "Happy Birthday, Princess." Kids ran around with cake-stained hands while adults chatted about old memories. Laughter filled the air, the kind of laughter that hides years of unspoken tension. My daughter Alina, just 11, stood quietly near the cake table, holding her little gift bag. She had always been gentle, graceful, and a little too mature for her age. Her long black hair shimmered in the sunlight, neatly braided down her back. She looked like a little angel. Everyone always said she resembled me when I was her age, calm, kind, and reserved. As people began to notice her, compliments poured in. "Alina, you look so beautiful today. Look at that hair. She's growing into such a lovely young lady. She could be a model someday." I smiled proudly, but I didn't see what those words were doing to my sister. Rena, she stood a few feet away, watching, her smile forced and tight. Her daughter Sarah, dressed in a glittery pink dress, had been the center of attention all morning until now. And Rena didn't like sharing the spotlight. My mother, always critical and cold, walked over to Rena and whispered something. I couldn't hear, but I saw the way they both looked at Alina, not with love, but with envy. When it was time to cut the cake, I stepped away to the buffet table to help arrange the food. That's when I heard a sudden, sharp scream that tore through the laughter. "Stop, please." My heart dropped. I turned around and my world froze. Rena had Alina by the shoulders. My father was holding her arms down. My mother stood behind them, scissors in hand. Before I could move, before I could even shout, I saw it, one quick, brutal snip. Alina's long, shiny braid fell to the ground. Everyone gasped. The music stopped. Even the kids went silent. Alina stood there trembling, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the back of her head in disbelief. Her once perfect hair was uneven, chopped, destroyed. My mother straightened up, cold and expressionless. "There," she said flatly. "Now she won't outshine her cousin. Let Sarah have her day." For a second, I didn't understand. My brain refused to believe what my eyes had seen. Then rage hit me like a storm. I rushed forward, shoving my father aside, grabbing Alina into my arms. "What have you done?" I screamed. Rena shrugged, avoiding my eyes. "Oh, calm down. It's just hair. It'll grow back." But it wasn't just hair. It was humiliation. It was cruelty. It was betrayal done by the people I trusted most. Alina buried her face in my shoulder, shaking, sobbing uncontrollably. I could feel her heart pounding against mine. "Mama, why did they do that? Did I do something wrong?" I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to scream, to destroy everything around me. I turned to my parents. "You should be ashamed of yourselves." My mother glared at me. "You've spoiled that girl too much. Maybe this will teach her humility." Humility. They called it humility. I called it cruelty. Without another word, I grabbed Alina's hand and walked straight to the car. I didn't care about the cake, the guests, or what anyone thought. As we left, I heard Sarah whisper, "I didn't want them to do it." But Rena silenced her with a glare. That night, Alina refused to eat. She sat in front of the mirror, staring at her uneven hair, her reflection trembling in the dim light. I stood behind her, tears streaming silently down my face. I tried to fix it, trimming the rough edges, but nothing could erase what they had done. "Mama," she whispered, her voice shaking, "why does Grandma hate me?" That question broke me. I knelt down beside her. "She doesn't hate you, sweetheart. She just doesn't understand how special you are." But inside, I knew that was a lie. My mother had always favored Rena, her perfect. Daughter who married well and gave her a granddaughter she could brag about. I was the quiet one, the one who didn't follow her orders. And now they had punished my child for being too beautiful, too graceful, too loved. The next morning, I went back to my parents' house to confront them. I demanded an apology. My father barely looked up from his newspaper. "You're overreacting," he said. It was a lesson in humility. She'll forget it in a week. My mother didn't even try to hide her disdain. That girl's pride needed cutting, just like her hair. "You should be thanking us." And Renoshi smirked. "Honestly, you're making it a big deal." Sarah was upset that everyone was comparing them. "We just fixed the problem." I looked at them, disgusted. "You didn't fix anything. You broke something you'll never understand." That was the last time I ever called that house my home. I took Alina and left. I blocked their numbers. I deleted every photo of us together. My heart was heavy, but I knew I had to protect her even if it meant cutting ties forever. Days turned into weeks, and Alina grew quieter. She refused to go to school. She'd cover her head with a scarf and say, "Everyone will laugh at me." I tried everything, bought her hats, wigs, even let her choose a new haircut. But it wasn't about the hair anymore. It was about trust. One night I found her sitting on her bed with a piece of paper in her lap. "What are you writing, sweetheart?" I asked. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "It's a letter to Grandma and Aunt Rena." She read it aloud. "You took my hair, but you didn't take my heart. One day I'll show you who I am." Her words were small, but they carried more power than any shout. I hugged her tight and whispered, "You already are showing them my love." That letter became her strength. I enrolled her in an art class at the community center, hoping it might help her heal. At first she was hesitant, but soon painting became her voice. She'd spend hours in her room, painting faces full of sadness, hope, and fire. Each stroke of her brush carried emotion too deep for words. Her teacher, Miss Layla, called me one afternoon. "Your daughter is special," she said. "She paints with emotion most adults can't express." By the time Alina turned 13, her artwork was selected for a city exhibition. The same hands that once trembled from fear were now creating beauty from pain. When I saw her standing by her first painting, a portrait of a crying girl holding a broken braid, I felt tears again. But this time, they weren't from sadness. They were from pride. The world was finally seeing what I had always known, that my daughter's spirit was unbreakable. Still, deep inside, I could sense something unresolved. She had grown stronger, yes, but part of her still carried the ache of betrayal. Then, one afternoon, the phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice was softer now. "It's been 2 years, she said. "Can you bring Alina over for dinner? We miss her." Every instinct in my body screamed no. But before I could answer, Alina walked into the room and whispered, "I want to go." I looked into her eyes. There was no anger there, any mournfully calm determination. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded. "I don't want revenge, Mama. I just want them to see who I am now." That night, we went back not as victims, but as survivors. When we reached my parents' house that night, the same gate creaked open, the same flowers lined the walkway. But everything felt different. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears as I parked the car. Alina stepped out calmly, holding a small box in her hands. She looked confident, her chin slightly lifted, her eyes glowing with quiet strength. As we walked toward the door, I felt the past pressing down on me, every cruel word, every betrayal echoing in my mind. My mother opened the door, her smile stiff and forced. "You look grown up," she said to Alina, her eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You've cut your hair short." Alina smiled politely. "Yes, I thought I'd own what you started. My mother's smile faltered. My father was sitting in his usual chair, his newspaper on his lap, pretending not to look nervous. Rena was there too, older, heavier, her expression unreadable. Sarah, her daughter, now 14, sat quietly in the corner. The air felt thick with unspoken guilt. My mother cleared her throat. Let's sit. We made dinner. It's been too long. The table was full of food, but the silence was heavier than the dishes. My father finally said, we heard about your art, Alina. Congratulations. Alina nodded. Thank you. Your work is very emotional, Rena said, trying to sound casual. People are talking about it. Lena smiled faintly. That's what happens when pain is turned into art. Arr. My mother's fork froze midair. No one spoke for several seconds. I could see Alina's composure, the quiet dignity she carried. She was no longer the little girl who cried in front of the mirror. She was someone reborn from ashes. After dinner, Alina stood up and reached for the small box she had brought. I have something for you, she said softly. She placed it in front of my mother. My mother frowned. What is it? A gift, Alina said simply. My mother hesitated, then slowly opened it. Inside was a framed painting. It showed a little girl sitting on the floor, her hair freshly cut, her tears falling onto the braid in her hands. Around her stood faceless figures, their outlines fading into darkness. But above her head, light poured in through a window. Beneath the painting were 5 words. You can't dim my light. My mother's lips trembled. My father looked down, shame flooding his face. Rena's eyes widened. She looked as if she'd seen a ghost. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, my mother whispered, You're angry at us. Alina shook her head. I was, but not anymore. This is not about anger. It's about showing you that I survived. That what you did didn't destroy me, made me stronger. Her voice didn't shake once. My mother's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in my life, I saw regret on her face. We didn't mean to hurt you, she murmured. Alina tilted her head. You didn't mean to, but you did. And sometimes that's worse. Rena's voice cracked. Alina, I was jealous. I'm sorry. I let my insecurity ruin something beautiful. Alina stared at her for a long moment, then said, I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means I won't let it own me anymore. Then she turned to Sarah. And you don't need to be like them. You can choose kindness. Sarah nodded, her eyes red with tears. She whispered, I always wanted to say sorry. I was scared. Lena smiled and touched her hand. It's okay. You were a child too. We left that night without saying goodbye. In the car, I looked at Alina and whispered, You were incredible. She smiled softly. I didn't go there for them, Mama. I went there for me. That night, as I watched her sleep, I realized my daughter had become everything they tried to crush, brave, graceful, and full of light. She had faced her demons and come out shining. Years passed. Alina's art grew in recognition. She was invited to galleries, interviews, and exhibitions. Her paintings carried stories of healing, strength, and forgiveness. Every canvas spoke the language of survival. One day, she got an invitation from a national art competition. The theme was resilience. She decided to paint something deeply personally seen from the night her hair was cut. But in her version, the little girl wasn't crying. She was standing tall, holding scissors in her hand, smiling into the mirror. It was titled Rebirth. The painting went viral. Newspapers wrote about her. Young artist turns childhood trauma into powerful masterpiece. People from all over the country wrote letters saying her work helped them heal from their own pain. Alina became a symbol of courage. But success didn't change her. She stayed humble, kind, and close to me. Every time she received an award, she'd whisper, "This is for us, Mama, for surviving." One evening, as we were preparing for another exhibition, a letter arrived. It was from my parents. My mother's handwriting was shaky. She wrote, "We see you everywhere. We see what you've become. Every time I look at your paintings, I see the truth of what we did. I'm sorry. I wish I could undo that day." Lena read the letter silently, then folded it neatly and said, "They're finally learning what remorse feels like. Will you see them again?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, Mama. Some chapters need to end for new ones to begin." Months later, Rena fell ill. Sarah called Alina and said her mother wanted to see her one last time. Alina thought for a long moment before agreeing. When we arrived at the hospital, Rena looked weak, her eyes sunken but clear. When she saw Alina, tears streamed down her face. "I've carried that guilt for years," she said between breaths. "I'm so proud of you. I wish I'd been better." Alina held her hand and whispered, "You still can be. In the next life, love your daughter better." Rena smiled faintly. "You already taught me how." She passed away peacefully that night. A week later, Alina painted a new piece. It showed two women, one older, one younger, standing hand in hand under a gray sky. The title was Forgiveness. She didn't sign her name at the bottom. She said some stories are bigger than names. After Rena's funeral, Sarah came to visit us often. She and Alina became close friends, united not by family ties but by shared pain and growth. They started an art program for children who had suffered emotional abuse, calling it Healing Hands. Lena taught kids how to express their feelings through color instead of silence. Watching her with those children made me realize that her pain had turned into a purpose far greater than revenge. One day, a little girl in her class asked, "Miss Alina, why do you paint sad people?" Alina smiled gently. "Because even sad people have light inside them. Sometimes they just need someone to show them it's still there." That sentence became the motto of her foundation. Years went by. Alina became a celebrated artist, known not just for her talent, but for her compassion. Her gallery openings were attended by hundreds. Her story was featured in documentaries. People cried watching her interviews. But for me, she was still my little girl, the one who once cried because her grandmother cut her braid. I remember one particular evening when we sat on the balcony, the sun setting behind the hills. Alina looked at me and said, "Mama, do you think I should forgive them completely?" I took a deep breath. "Forgiveness isn't for them, Alina. It's for you. You already let go of the pain. That's enough." She nodded. "Then I think I already did." Years later, when my parents passed away, Alina didn't attend their funerals. But she painted one final tribute. It was called Roots and Wings. The painting showed a tree at its roots tangled and dark, but its branches reaching toward the light. She said they were my roots, even if broken. But I grew wings anyway. The painting hung in her main gallery for years, drawing people from around the world. Some cried, some smiled, but everyone left with hope. And that's what Alina always wanted, to turn her pain into someone else's strength. Sometimes I still think back to that day at the birthday party, the day my parents and sister cut my daughter's hair, thinking they could humble her. They didn't know they were planting the seed of her greatness. The cruelty that was meant to destroy her became the fire that forged her courage. Today, Alina stands tall, woman admired, respected, and loved by millions. Her story reminds me that sometimes life breaks us not to destroy us, but to rebuild us stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Whenever people ask me what Alina's greatest achievement is, I don't say her awards or her fame. I say it's her heart. The way she chose kindness over vengeance, forgiveness over hate. Because that's the truest kind of strength, ability to shine, even when the world tried to snuff out your light. And every time I see one of her paintings, I remember that broken little girl in front of the mirror, and I whisper a prayer of gratitude. She didn't just survive, she conquered. And in doing so, she taught me the most powerful lesson of all. You can't control how others treat you, but you can always choose how to rise from it. That's the beauty of resilience. That's the power of a heart that refuses to be broken. That's Alina's legacy.